For more than 2,000 years, one mysterious cloth has challenged scientists, historians, and skeptics: the Shroud of Turin. But recently, researchers have begun uncovering details in the shroud that were invisible for centuries. Using high-resolution imaging, forensic analysis, and historical comparisons, new photographs reveal features of the cloth that most people have never seen before. In this video, we're going to look at astonishing images of the shroud and scientific evidence that raises some of the most difficult questions ever asked about the burial of Jesus. For centuries, the Shroud of Turin has been locked away behind bulletproof glass in a climate-controlled chamber inside the Cathedral of St. John the Baptist in Turin, Italy. It has survived wars, it has survived theft attempts, and remarkably, it has survived 2 separate fires that nearly destroyed it. Today, when the shroud is occasionally displayed to the public, people still travel from around the world to see it, and they wait, sometimes 8 hours or more, in a line that stretches around the cathedral. But something strange happens when people finally step forward and see it. At first, many of them don't understand what they're looking at, because with the naked eye, the shroud doesn't look like a portrait. It looks faint, almost ghost-like. Across the cloth you see dark burn marks from ancient fires, rows of small triangular patches sewn by medieval nuns trying to repair the damage, and a faint discoloration running down the center of the linen. But if someone standing beside you points carefully at the cloth, suddenly your eyes begin to adjust. And that's when it happens. You realize the faint stains form the outline of a human body. A full body, front and back. A man who appears to have been brutally tortured and crucified. And then something even stranger happens. Because the shroud hides a secret that nobody realized for almost 2,000 years. The secret wasn't discovered by priests, or historians, or archaeologists. It was discovered by a camera. In 1898, an Italian photographer named Secondo Pia was given permission to photograph the shroud during a rare public exhibition. When he developed the photographic plate in his darkroom, he nearly dropped it in shock, because the negative image revealed something no one had ever seen before. The faint stains on the cloth suddenly became a clear human face, a detailed face, a wounded face, the face of a crucified man. What the human eye saw on the cloth looked like a blurry negative, but the photographic negative revealed what looked like a perfect positive image. In other words, the Shroud of Turin appeared to contain the world's first photographic negative, created nearly 2,000 years before photography was invented. And when scientists began analyzing the image more closely, the details became even more disturbing. The man on the cloth had been severely whipped. Researchers counted over 300 scourge marks across his body, his back, his chest, his legs, his thighs, even his calves. Almost every part of the body shows signs of brutal beating, except for the face, forearms, and feet. Many historians believe these wounds match the Roman flagrum, a whip with multiple leather cords tipped with metal or bone. Each strike could leave 3 separate wounds, which means the man may have been whipped over 100 times. And the pattern of the wounds suggests something chilling. The victim was beaten from both sides. One executioner was taller, another may have been left-handed. Exactly the kind of forensic detail investigators expect from a Roman crucifixion. But the mysteries of the shroud don't stop there. Now, before I get to the really shocking stuff, if you've made it up to this point in the video, you are clearly a person of faith and may be a great member of my weekly mail list. Go to godcollection.kit.com or click the link in the pinned comment to see if you qualify. Now let's get back to the video. When researchers zoomed in on the face on the shroud, they noticed something strange. The hair appears to be pulled slightly away from the face, as if something had been wrapped tightly around the head. The beard is distorted and drawn backward, almost like the jaw had been bound shut, which turns out to be extremely significant, because according to ancient Jewish burial customs, the jaw of a deceased person was often tied closed with cloth. And in the Gospel of John, we read a small but fascinating detail. Both Lazarus and Jesus are described as having a cloth wrapped around the head and face after death. The Greek word used in the text literally describes a cloth tied around the head like a bandage, exactly what the shroud image appears to show, but that's only the beginning. Because when scientists began studying the cloth in the 1970s, they discovered something that made the mystery. The image on the shroud isn't paint, it isn't dye, it isn't ink, and it isn't the result of pigment rubbed onto the cloth. When researchers placed samples under powerful microscopes, they expected to see particles of paint lodged in the fibers, but they found nothing. No brush strokes, no pigments, no directionality that would suggest a human artist. Instead, the image exists only on the very top layer of the linen fibers. Each thread of the cloth is made up of hundreds of microscopic fibers called fibrils. And astonishingly, the discoloration that forms the image appears on only the outermost fibrils, not the fibers underneath, not the back of the cloth, just the surface. In other words, whatever created the image affected the linen at a depth of only a few microns. That is thinner than a human hair, much thinner. No known medieval technique can produce that kind of superficial marking. If someone had painted the cloth, the pigment would have soaked into the threads. If someone had burned the cloth, the damage would penetrate deeper into the linen. But the shroud image behaves differently. It's as if something touched the surface of the fibers with incredible precision, and then stopped. And that is only the first layer of the puzzle. Because when scientists ran the image through early computer analysis in the 1970s, something completely unexpected appeared. The shroud image contains three-dimensional information. To understand why this is so unusual, imagine a normal photograph. A photograph is flat, it records light and shadow, but it doesn't contain information about distance from the camera. But when researchers fed the shroud image into a device called a VP8 image analyzer, the machine produced something astonishing. A three-dimensional relief. The contours of a human body emerged from the data. The nose protruded, the cheeks had depth, the chest rose naturally. Even the shape of the legs could be reconstructed. The brightness of the image corresponded directly to the distance between the cloth and the body. That means the cloth somehow recorded spatial information, almost as if the body itself was emitting something that interacted with the linen. And this leads to one of the most puzzling aspects of the shroud. The cloth does not appear to have been wrapped tightly around the body. If it had been, the image would look distorted, like a cloth pressed around a statue. Instead, the image appears almost like a projection. Certain areas of the body that would not have touched the cloth at all are still visible in the image. The sides of the legs, parts of the face, even the contours of the body beneath where the cloth would have draped loosely. That means the image seems to have formed across small gaps of space. Something traveled from the body to the cloth without direct contact. And whatever it was, it stopped after only a few millimeters. No one has ever fully explained how that could happen, but the mysteries continue. Because when scientists analyzed the stains on the cloth, they discovered something else that shocked them. The stains are real blood, not paint made to look like blood. Real human blood. Tests reveal the presence of hemoglobin and other components consistent with actual blood serum. Even more striking, forensic analysis showed that the blood stains formed before the body image appeared. That means the blood was already on the cloth when the mysterious image was created. The blood soaked into the fibers, but the body image remained only on the surface. Two different phenomena, two different processes, and that raises an obvious question. Whoever the man on the shroud was, what happened to him? The answer, according to the wounds on the cloth, is brutal. Across the back of the body, scientists counted hundreds of scourge marks, each one consistent with the Roman whip known as the flagrum. The flagrum had multiple leather cords, each tipped with metal or bone. When it struck the skin, it tore into the flesh, and when the executioner pulled it back, the hooks ripped the wounds open even wider. Then there is the wound in the side. On the shroud, a large bloodstain appears between the ribs. The flow of blood suggests a deep puncture wound. Medical experts believe it matches the description recorded in the Gospel of John, where a Roman soldier pierced Jesus' side with a spear. But perhaps the most chilling detail appears at the wrists, because the nails are not in the palms. They are in the wrists. For centuries, Christian art depicted crucifixion nails driven through the palms of the hands. But modern medical studies show that nails placed through the palms would tear through the flesh under the weight of a human body. The wrists, however, contain a space between the bones that can support the body's weight, and the shroud shows exactly that. The nail wound appears in the wrist, not the palm. A detail medieval artists did not understand, but Roman executioners certainly did. The blood flows down the forearms at an angle consistent with a man suspended on a cross. Every detail matches the mechanics of crucifixion, but there is another detail that puzzled researchers for decades. The fingers on the image appear unusually long, almost unnaturally long. Some critics even argued that this proved the shroud must be an artistic forgery, but medical researchers eventually discovered the real explanation. The image appears to reveal the bones of the hand beneath the skin, almost like an X-ray. The fingers appear elongated because the image includes the underlying skeletal structure, which means the image is not simply showing the surface of the body. It somehow penetrated deeper. Even more astonishing, some researchers believe the teeth of the man can also be seen faintly beneath the lips. Again, almost like an X-ray effect. How could a cloth record something like no known medieval process can produce an image with these characteristics? But the shroud mystery doesn't end with the wounds, because there is another question that has fueled debate for decades. How old is the cloth? In 1988, 3 laboratories conducted carbon-14 dating tests on a small sample of the shroud. The results shocked many people. The test suggested the cloth dated between 1260 and 1390 AD. If that result were correct, the shroud would be a medieval creation. The headlines were immediate. The Shroud of Turin is a fake. For many critics, the case seemed closed. But the story did not end there, because soon after the results were announced, scientists began examining the testing process more closely, and they discovered something troubling. The sample used for the carbon dating may not have come from the original cloth at all. Chemist Ray Rogers, a member of the Shroud research team, studied threads taken from the area used in the carbon dating test, and under microscopic analysis, he found that the threads were chemically different from the rest of the shroud. The sample contained cotton fibers and dye not found in the main body of the cloth, which suggests the sample may have come from a medieval repair patch. If that's true, the carbon dating test would have dated the repair, not the original cloth. And that's not the only problem researchers discovered. When statisticians later obtained the raw data from the carbon dating tests, they noticed something unusual. The dates from the 3 laboratories were not consistent. They varied widely. Some differed by hundreds of years. Instead of resolving the discrepancies, the researchers averaged the dates together to produce a final estimate. But statisticians argue that averaging inconsistent data like that can produce misleading results. If the samples came from different materials, averaging them would not produce a reliable date. In other words, the famous 1988 test may not have settled the question at all. And recently, newer studies using alternative dating techniques have suggested the linen could be much older, possibly even consistent with the 1st century. But perhaps the most fascinating evidence comes from history itself, because long before modern science examined the shroud, artists across the Byzantine world began depicting Jesus in a very specific way. A long narrow face, hair parted down the middle, a distinctive beard with a split in the center, a long nose, and two strange lines across the throat. These details appear again and again in early Christian artwork, in icons, in paintings, even on ancient coins. And when researchers compared these images to the face on the shroud, they noticed something remarkable. The features match almost perfectly. Some of the earliest images date back to the 6th century, hundreds of years before the medieval period suggested by the carbon dating test. Even tiny gold coins minted in the Byzantine Empire show a face strikingly similar to the shroud image. The hair, the beard, the facial proportions, even small details like lines beneath the chin, which raises a fascinating question. What were these artists copying? Because the similarities are too specific to be coincidence. It appears that early Christian artists may have been referencing an existing image, an image that looked exactly like the one on the shroud. And if that's true, it suggests the shroud image must have existed centuries earlier than the carbon dating result. But perhaps the most mysterious aspect of the shroud still remains. Because when scientists analyze the chemical changes in the linen fibers, many conclude the image may have been created by an intense burst of energy. Some researchers have proposed that the image could be the result of radiation interacting with the cloth, a brief, powerful emission of energy capable of altering the surface of the fibers without burning the fabric. But that raises an obvious question. What kind of event could produce that kind of energy? A dead body lying in a tomb does not emit radiation powerful enough to create an image on cloth, which is why even some skeptical scientists admit the shroud presents a phenomenon they cannot fully explain. And that brings us to the question that has fascinated believers and skeptics alike for more than a century. Is the Shroud of Turin the burial cloth of Jesus Christ? Some historians remain cautious. Science rarely deals in absolute certainty, but when you look at the evidence together, the mystery becomes difficult to dismiss. A cloth bearing the image of a crucified man, wounds matching the gospel accounts, bloodstains consistent with Roman execution, an image that behaves like a photographic negative, containing three-dimensional information, existing only on the surface of the fibers, possibly even showing X-ray-like characteristics beneath the skin. And if it were a medieval forgery, it would require a forger capable of producing a photographic negative 6 centuries before photography existed, creating a three-dimensional encoded image 7 centuries before computers could detect it, and somehow replicating the precise medical details of Roman crucifixion long before modern forensic science understood them. Not which leaves us with a mystery, one that science is still trying to understand, one that historians continue to debate, and one that millions of believers see as a silent witness to one of the most important events in human history. Because if the shroud truly is what many believe it is, then this fragile piece of linen may be the most extraordinary artifact ever preserved. A cloth that recorded the final moments of a crucified man, and perhaps the moment he rose again